Hey guys, it's Paul and welcome back to my channel. I have my bachelor's in criminal justice and a minor in psychology, and I will say that for the next 70 videos because I'm just so proud of myself. On top of that, I am a board member for a nonprofit called Voices for the Silenced, and we help families that have missing loved ones, help getting resources such as billboards is our big thing, searches, social media presence, anything that can really help get the story out there. So if you have a missing loved one that you need help getting the word out for, please get a hold of us and we'll do what we can. And welcome back to the Crimetober series. In the last video we are going to do is actually one with a happy ending, because after this series this time I needed a happy ending. And we are going to be going over the Jayme case. So let's just go ahead and get right in. Jayme was born in 2005. She was 13 at the time of everything that happened to her, and she is from Barron, Wisconsin. She was in the 8th grade at Riverview Middle School, and she did have a tight-knit group of friends. She hung out with them all the time, and she was just a really cute, strawberry blonde, green-eyed 8th grader. She loved dancing and ice skating and volleyball, and her dad was James Kloss. He was 56 at the time of this. He loved sports, and he was a big Green Bay Packers fan, loved college football, and was a Wisconsin Badgers fan. And then her mom was Denise Kloss, and she was 46 at the time. Very kind and just loved nature. She had a green thumb and loved flowers, and she liked to feed birds. Now, they ended up getting married in 2003 in Las Vegas, and they both worked at a turkey factory. Jayme and Denise were really close. They had a great mother-daughter bond. They both were pretty religious, but they were also shy, but kind and giving. And Jayme loved her dog so much. She begged for this dog for quite a while before her mom finally gave in. And that is when they got Molly. Now, another person that we unfortunately have to talk about is Jake Patterson. He was 21 at the time of this, and he was quiet, shy, thought to be polite, nice, but preferred to live off the grid. In 2008, his parents divorced, and pretty much him and his brother had to fend for themselves. They ended up going to foster care, in which ultimately they lived in a cabin by themselves. And in high school, Jake didn't have very many friends at all. He spent most of his time alone. He barely spoke, and he didn't go to big events such as prom and graduation. He did like video games though, so he spent quite a bit of time doing that. He was in the Marine Corps, but in 2015 he did get discharged. He always seemed to be in between jobs, but I will say he had no criminal history. I think the only thing he had was like a parking ticket. Now, he briefly worked at the Saputo cheese factory. He worked there for 2 days, and out of those 2 days, there was one time he was headed to work and he was behind a school bus. And now he saw Jayme Kloss get on this school bus, and he didn't know who she was, but he knew he was going to kidnap her. He said it was just like a sudden urge he couldn't get his mind off of. Now, Jake ended up shaving his head because he didn't want any hair to be left when he kidnapped this little girl. And he also planned to wear 2 sets of gloves. He took his dad's 12-gauge shotgun and thought it would be hard to track because this gun was common, and he ended up grabbing about 6 bullets. And before anything, he wiped this gun and these bullets down to not have fingerprints on them. Now, he ended up stealing a license plate from someone else and put it on his car. He disconnected the dome light in his car because he didn't want it to be able to come on when he opened the door. And he also cut the cord that would allow you to unlock your trunk from like a key fob or something like that. He wanted you to have to put the key in there and, crank it to open it. So lots of planning, right? Jake had actually drove to the Clauses' house twice before anything ever happened. He left the first time because there was a lot of cars in the driveway and it was just apparent he wouldn't be able to do this without having witnesses. And the second time he drove there, the lights were still on and he could see people walking around the house, so he knew not a good time either. But on October 15th, 2018, Jake made his third attempt, but he had the shotgun this time because there was no one that was going to stop him, including law enforcement, that got in his way of taking Jayme Closs. He wore a black coat, a ski mask, jeans, gloves, and steel-toe boots. And at 12:53 a.m., Jayme woke up because Molly was acting weird. Molly knew something was about to happen, that someone was outside, and she started freaking out. So Jayme looked out the window and saw this car in her driveway. So she went to go get her parents. Jake had parked his car at the end of the driveway and was walking up. He had turned his headlights off, so it was harder to tell he was coming, and he walked straight up to the front door with his shotgun. Denise and Jayme went into the bathroom. They locked the door and they pulled the shower curtain and sat in the bathtub. Now James looked through the glass pane on the door to see that somebody was walking up. Jake yelled for him to get on the ground, but James did not budge. James thought he was a police officer, so he asked him to show him his badge, but Jake yelled, "Open the door." And once he got the door open, James was killed with one shot. Jake forced his way inside past James's body, and he checked every single room to see if anybody else was there. But it seemed that all the doors were open except for the bathroom one. Now he tried to open the door, but it just wouldn't budge. They had put like a big piece of furniture against it to help barricade themselves in. So he rammed this door over and over and over and over again with his shoulder. And then he began shooting the door down. Denise was trying to comfort Jayme because she was crying hysterically. Can you imagine how scared you'd be? Denise ended up calling 911 around 1 a.m.
Southern County 911, where is your husband?
Somebody I just went from.
Hello?
Somebody.
Hello?
No one spoke on this call, but the dispatcher could hear what was going on, and then the phone disconnected. So she tried to call it back, and it went to the voicemail of Denise Closs. So this dispatcher sent officers to the location of this call. Now, when Patterson got into this bathroom, he told Denise, "You had to duct tape Jayme's mouth." He also bound Jayme's wrists and ankles with duct tape, and he turned his head to the side and shot Denise. Now he ended up dragging Jayme out of the house and placed her in the trunk of his car and drove away. Something to keep in mind is that officers got to the Closs house within 4 minutes. Some of them were in the area. So all of this happened within 4 minutes because Jake had already left by the time they got there. And they even caught footage from a dash cam of passing Patterson just about 20 seconds down the road from Jayme's house. And now he ended up taking Jayme to the cabin that he lived in Gordon, Wisconsin. That was about 70 miles away from where she lived. And he even had a sign on his house that said Patterson's Retreat, which is not what I would call it once you hear what happens. When he got Jayme inside, he made her get out of her clothes and dress in his sister's pajamas. And he took the duct tape and gloves and burned them in the fireplace. And then he forced her to get underneath his mattress and bed. And he sealed it off with totes and weights on them and just barricaded her underneath his bed, and he went to sleep. Now, let's get into the investigation. When they got there, they couldn't find any fingerprints. But of course, we know that Jake wiped everything down. But in that 4 minutes, he had wiped down enough in the house that they couldn't even find the family's fingerprints in that house. And neighbors did say they heard gunshots from the house, but they kind of assumed that someone was hunting because they lived in a very wooded area where people would hunt. Now, people hunting at 1 a.m. is probably something you should have called about, but whatever. Clearly, they could tell that her parents were deceased and that she was gone. And they were able to find the footprints headed to the house because it was a little snowy that day. Now, these detectives followed up on thousands of tips. There was even a tip that Jayme was in a car with 2 men in Miami, but that didn't end up being credible. Now, they did end up looking into 2 cars on the security camera footage, but neither car was involved. They even arrested a man that was wandering around the Kloss house. And he even admitted, I was trying to get in to steal some clothes. And we clearly know this guy didn't take Jayme, but he did get brought in for questioning because it's a really weird excuse. You're just going in to get some clothes early in the morning. They did end up releasing an Amber Alert for Jayme, which they labeled her missing and endangered.
This continues to be a community-wide effort to bring Jayme home. I'm joined this afternoon by local, state, and federal partners along with our school district. Special Agent in Charge, FBI Special Agent in Charge, Dustin Talameo, Brian O'Keefe, the Administrator of the Wisconsin Department of Investigations, and Diane Tremblay, our Superintendent of the Barron Area School District. We want to encourage people to continue to use our tip line. As of 3 p.m. today, we've received over 200 tips. Again, that tip line number is 1-855-744-3879. We will continue to provide credible information from this podium through press briefings and our Facebook page. There has been tips and information that are being released that does not come from this podium. That is not credible information.
The FBI is here to support the investigation and the community in the safe return of Jayme. We are providing a number of resources, which include investigative, technical, tactical, and intelligence, as well as agents from our child abduction rapid deployment team. The FBI, along with our law enforcement partners, is committed to finding Jayme quickly and ask for the public's help in making that happen.
And even police and volunteers searched for this girl. And the community really fought to make sure that her name stayed in the forefront of everybody's mind and no one forgot about her case. Neighbors would show up at events and gather in Jayme's honor. And even Chris Craze from The Voice dedicated a song to Jayme Kloss because he was from Wisconsin. And even the turkey shop that these 2 parents worked at released that they were going to give a $25,000 reward for anyone that could get them Jayme safe and sound. And then the FBI offered a $25,000 reward for any information that would bring them Jayme. So Jayme was in captivity quite a long time. He consistently held her underneath his bed, and he really used scare tactics to keep her not pushing boundaries with him. And he told her, if you try to leave, bad things will happen to you. And let's be honest, she knew this man killed her parents, so she was really, really worried. So it wasn't a stretch for her to think that he would kill her too. And like I said, he would barricade her under that bed with totes and laundry baskets with weights around them and on top of them, so she couldn't really push it out of the way without him knowing. And he made her stay underneath that bed all the time, sometimes up to 12 hours a day, without food, without water, and without even going to the bathroom. Now, when she would do something that would make him mad, he would yell and he would hit the walls to intimidate her. And he even hit her with something that was kind of like a Swiffer duster. And to her, it hurt really bad. So she really was scared to death of this guy. But I am not kidding. This guy got so ballsy that he ended up even having company over. And when he had them over, he would just turn the music on in his room. That way it would muffle any sounds she would make underneath that bed. And his dad came over almost every Saturday, even when Jayme was there. And even his friends and family said he seemed so much more upbeat lately and didn't know why. Jake truly believed that at some point, him and Jayme would just go and live a happy life. And Jake really did terrify her enough to not even try to escape. He didn't even put locks on his bedroom door because he thought he had her so brainwashed she would never try to escape. And he only let her out of the house a couple of times. He let her walk around the yard a few times, but it was only if no one was outside. And he also would let her out to play board games and things like that with him. He did keep a loaded gun on his nightstand for about 2 weeks, but then after that, he assumed he got away with this. On January 10th, 2019, 88 days after Jayme was taken by Jake Patterson, Jake told her he was leaving for a couple hours. He had a job interview that he had to go to because, again, he got so ballsy that he had this girl brainwashed that he just assumed she would stay under that bed during all his shifts at work. He was looking at a night shift position at a warehouse for a liquor distributor, and even in his resume, he put, "I'm an honest and hardworking guy," under the skills section. He also put, "Not much work experience, but I show up to work and I am a quick learner." He put her under the bed and trapped her inside as normal, but a little bit after he left, she shoved all those totes away, weights and all. She grabbed a pair of Jake's shoes and didn't even worry about grabbing a jacket, and she left that house around 4 p.m. It was freezing and snowy, and she saw this person walking their dog and ran right up to them.
When I'm up here, we normally walk the loop of the area where all of the cabins are. It's about 1.6 miles. And we were just reaching my driveway when this young girl approached me, and she said she needed help. She was lost. She didn't know where she was. And in my previous life, I was a child protection social worker, so I kind of got into that mode automatically, like, here's a kid in need, let's figure out what's going on. So she, as she got close to me, she told me who she was, and I recognized her. So then I immediately thought, okay, I need to get her to a safe place.
Did you?
I needed to find a phone because I didn't have my phone with me.
Right.
And I didn't want to bring her to my cabin because I didn't feel like that was the best place for us at that time, because it would have been just me or her. Mm-hmm. I wanted more people. So 2 doors down from me, or one, there's a house in between Kristen and Peter's and ours. And I knew Kristen was a teacher. I knew she would be here for us. So I came to their house, knocked on the door, and said, "Please call 911. I believe I have Jayme Kloss with me."
When Jayme approached you, did she look like someone who was she disheveled? What was she wearing? You know, did she look like someone who had been?
When I saw her, I knew she was in trouble because I knew wherever she came from, she left in a hurry. I didn't know if somebody had just dropped her off, or because she just had on a sweatshirt and leggings and shoes that were too big for her. So all I knew is when she told me who she was, I obviously know the circumstances of her disappearance and what happened to her parents, and I knew the person who had her was not a good person, and I needed to have her in a safe place. Yeah, I needed to get to a place. I went to the first house I thought of because I kind of know the guy there, but he wasn't home. So then I said, okay, Kristen lives down the road from me. I know she's a teacher. I know she'll help us.
And then Peter,
So,
I want to bring Peter into the conversation. Peter Kazinkas was at that home. Is that right?
Yeah, Peter is her husband.
So Peter, so when they came to the house, you've now got your neighbor Jeannie Nutter and this young 13-year-old girl. What were your first thoughts?
My first thoughts were I basically went into shock. Yeah, I mean, it was like I was literally seeing a ghost. We've seen pictures and TV ads and all this stuff, and to have her come in the house and say, "This is Jayme Kloss, call 911," was unreal. You know,
Yes.
I didn't think she was alive, and then to see that in my kitchen was quite the shocker.
Did you recognize her right away, or was it only because
Instantly.
Yeah, that shows the value of showing those pictures. Did she tell you anything about her? We know that the suspect, he's now been identified as Jake Patterson. Did she tell you anything? Did she tell you the name of the suspect?
She did.
Oh, and did she say whether or not she knew him?
She said she did not know him before this happened.
Right. And did she tell you anything about the 2 months that she had spent with him?
No, we didn't ask any questions
Right.
other than who was it and what are they driving, because we were on the phone with 911 at the time, so we were able to give them the name and the color of the car that he was driving anyway.
And did she have any complaints, Peter?
Did she have any complaints?
Did she say that she was in pain, that anything was bothering her?
No. We asked her if she was okay, we asked her if she wanted like something to eat, something to drink, and she said, "No, I'm fine." And she looked really cold, so I just got a blanket off of the couch, and I said, "You look cold. If you're not, you can take it off, but put this blanket on because you look like you're freezing."
And did she stay with the three of you? Your wife was there too. Kristen was there as well?
Yes.
And did she stay with the three of you until the police came?
What was that?
Did she stay with the three of you until the police came?
Yes. She was here for approximately a half an hour altogether. When the police, it was probably about 15 to 20 minutes before the police arrived at the house, and then they were here for maybe 5 minutes or so. Once they identified her, they had another car come in and get her out of here and get her to safety quickly. Yeah, like I told Jayme when she was sitting on my couch yesterday, I just said, "I am so glad to see you."
And while they were leaving, once again, they pass Jake Patterson in the subdivision. The officer did alert others that this could possibly be him and watched Jake pull just a little bit past the house that he lived in. 2 sergeants ended up catching him not even an hour later. One ordered for the driver to put his hands up while the other one was opening the door. Jake did admit to everything and told them that, "Yes, I'm your guy," and explained that he was the one who kidnapped Jayme Kloss and killed her parents. The police had made it to this house to get Jayme by 4:43. I mean, Jake had made it to this house by like 4:43, so he missed Jayme by like not even 45 minutes. So Jake pulled his car a little bit past his house. He went inside and realized Jayme wasn't there, so he went driving to find her. But what he forgot was that he had put his license plate that was registered to him back on his car. By this point, I mean, it was 88 days later. So when the police saw him pull into the neighborhood, they were already running his license plate to figure out who that was. And it rang back Jake Patterson Patterson's mom. 2 sergeants ended up catching him within an hour of Jayme escaping. And Jake didn't deny anything at all. He actually admitted to everything when he was caught by 2 sergeants and just took full responsibility. So, of course, Jake was arrested. In March 2019, Jake did write a news reporter saying that he acted mostly on impulse. The police said he planned it, but that was not true, he said. But let's not forget how much planning did actually go into this. He said that he did plan to plead guilty because he didn't want to put Jayme through a trial because he had already put her through so much. He felt that he took enough from her and he hurt her more than anyone could. He did plead guilty to 2 counts of first-degree murder, a count of kidnapping, and with this, the judge did decide to drop the burglary charge. And on May 24th, 2019, he was sentenced to 2 consecutive life sentences for the death of Jayme Closs's parents, James and Denise, without the possibility of parole. And then he also got an additional consecutive 40 years. Either way, Jake ain't getting out. And on June 2019, Jake was registered as a sex offender. And this part's a little weird for me because there was actually no intimacy, whether consented or not, between Jake and Jayme. He felt that he just did enough to her by killing her parents that he couldn't ever bring himself to actually harm her any more than like mentally brainwashing her. He did claim he had thoughts of it, but his guilt was eating him alive of what he had already put her through. And he said ultimately he was in this for companionship. He had been alone his whole life, and it just was not about sex when it came to Jayme. In July 2019, he was transferred to a New Mexico prison, and by August 2019, he had gotten into a fight with another inmate because they were harassing him on his charges. Jake's dad has spoken out because he is completely disturbed that he was at his son's house multiple times with Jayme barricaded underneath his bed. He said he had no idea. He really had no idea. And he just could not believe who his son became. And he did write a letter to Jayme and the family that he didn't kill. And he really tried to explain this urge he had to kidnap her. He said he did not understand why this overwhelmingly came over him, and said there was literally no motive behind this except for, like the companionship we talked about a little earlier. And Jayme lives with her Aunt Jennifer now after she went through a recovery process. It's clear they still only take one day at a time, but Jayme does stay quite positive through all this. She's enjoying dance again and school activities, and her family actually saved her unopened Christmas presents. So when Jayme was found, she had all this Christmas stuff that she got to open and just make her feel good. And other people that had escaped their kidnapper as a child got a hold of Jayme and rushed to show her support, especially Elizabeth Smart and Michelle Knight. Jayme did become an advocate for missing children, and she was the happiest about being with her dog Molly again. And the turkey shop owner claimed that Jayme should get the reward money for everything she did. She saved herself. She gave people the information that they needed to arrest the person that killed her parents and kidnapped her. If it wasn't for Jayme, she would have never been found safe. And I'm not sure if she ever did get the reward money. So if anybody knows, leave that in the comments. I couldn't really find anything. That is all I have for Jayme loss. Isn't this case wild? It is a miracle that Jake didn't do anything to her while he had her in captivity, except for the brainwashing. That's horrible. But like, she wasn't physically hurt, sexually hurt, nothing like that. And for him to have no arrest record, he was on no one's radar, especially since it was just a random kid he saw get off a bus. How brave of Jayme to save herself. I would be so scared. I'd be leaving that door and he'd be sitting in the living room or something, especially with how bad he brainwashed her. But good for Jayme. I hope she is healing from this as much as you can. And thank you guys so much for watching. Like and subscribe for me, and hit that notification button. That way you're notified the next time I upload. Now, I still do have a GoFundMe running for Crystal Young. If you have not watched that video, you need to go watch it so you can figure out why her mom needs this PI so bad. And I still have stickers for sale. They are $2 each, and all proceeds go to the Cold Case Foundation, so it is for a good cause. And thank you guys so much again for watching, and I'll see you in the next one. Bye.
You know, the real hero is not me. It's Jayme, who was able to leave the house and find me on the road, and I just happened to be at the right place at the right time.